Hello students, today's topic is psychosocial development in adolescence. Why this adolescence is very important and what are the psychosocial development occurs in this phase. After reading this chapter, you will be able to answer these questions. What are the psychosocial developments that occur during this adolescence? What are the different trends of adolescence social development? How adolescent social development is different from that of childhood social development. Social developments during adolescence. There are several environmental and biological changes at adolescence lead to new social encounters and heighten the awareness and the interest in other people. Adolescence involves sexual maturity in terms of hormones and the physical development of the body and is also characterized by an increase in the complexity of group interaction and thus social behavior. There are various reasons which leads to all these procedures. Adolescence is a period of development and consolidation of social self, of one's identity and understanding of the self in relation to the social world. The social development of adolescence is best considered in the following context in which the primarily occurs: peers, family, school, works, community, neighbors and various social other informs. Adolescence is a period of development and consolidation of the social self and one's own identity. They suffer in various problems in these days. One of them is identity problem. Children seem to become progressively self-conscious and concerned with other people's opinions as they go through puberty and the period of adolescence. Earlier, they used to be very dependent on their parents, but the time they entered into adolescence, they become disattached from their parents and they follow their peer groups. There is a noticeable change in relationship with peers, family, and society occurs during this time. One of the most obvious changes in adolescence is that the hub around them and the world revolves shift from family to the peer group. So they sometimes feel confusion. What they should not follow, they feel that their family and the peer groups, they becomes confusion. One of the most obvious changes in adolescence is that the hub around which the adolescence world revolves shift from the family to the peer group. Adolescents begin to assert more autonomous control over their decisions, emotions and actions and start to disengage from the parental control. They feel very independent at that time. In childhood they used to be very dependent. According to Brzezinski and Adams 2003, the school context involves an intense socialization process during which the adolescents become increasingly aware of the perspectives of classmates, teachers and other social influences. They are very much influenced by their peer group. Erikson's theory. According to Erikson, identity is the major personality achievement of adolescence and a crucial step towards becoming a productive adult, in which they feel very confusion. They could not able to trace where they are. Constructing an identity involves one's realization about self, value and the prospective careers to pursue in life. Teenagers in complex societies experience an identity crisis, a temporary period of distress followed by settling on values and goals. They need to achieve certain goals. If they could not able to achieve, then they suffer in this phase. Identity versus role confusion. Individuals improve their sense of self by trying out various roles and incorporating them until a single identity is created. It is the more independent and explore possibilities and begin to form their own identity based upon the outcome of their exploration. They try to explore a lot of things and they experience very new and different things which sometimes lead to achieve their identity and sometimes also they fall in confusion. If they are unable to create an identity, they become confused and are unable to figure out who they really are and become uncertain about where their future will lead to them. If the conflicts are resolved negatively or their choices do not match to the abilities and desires, they may appear shallow, directionless, not prepared to accept the challenges of the adulthood, which will lead them to so many things. We will discuss this further. Adolescents must assemble an identity out of their self-perceptions and their relationship with other people. Theorists agree that questioning of values and priorities is necessary for a momentary identity, which may not be a crisis for most young people, but a process of exploration followed by commitment. Self-understanding. Adolescents' vision of self become more complex, well-organized and consistent. They have more or less positive feelings about an increasing variety of aspects of self. They form a balanced, integrated representation of their strengths and limitations. If they could not able to form that balance, then they fall in various problems. These challenges in self-concept and self-esteem set the stage for developing an unidentified personality identity. Changes in self-concept. What is self-concept? Self-concept refers to the self of beliefs one has about oneself. This includes beliefs about one's attribution, roles, goals and interests, values and sometimes beliefs. By the end of middle childhood, they describe themselves in terms of personality traits. In early adolescence, they unify separate traits such as smart and talented into more abstract description such as intelligence. Every child or every adolescent wants to be smart, talented, intelligent, and these are the quality which they think that the peer group will be attracted to them. Therefore, they want to be coded by these terms. From middle to late adolescence, cognitive changes enable teenagers to combine their traits into an organized system. Teenagers place more emphasis on social virtues such as friendly, kind, cooperative, be sympathetic, and try to share each other's problem with each other. Among older adolescents, personal and moral values are key themes. As young people revise their views of themselves to include endured beliefs and plans, they move towards the unity of self that is central to identity development. If they achieve their identity at that first phase, then they develop it more integratedly. Changes in self-esteem. Self-esteem involves evaluating how one feels about one's self-concept. It's totally about self, not that what others feels about yourself. In adolescence, young people add several new dimensions of self-evaluation: close friendship, romantic appeal, and job competence. Job competence helps them to be independent throughout their life, and also they can help and support their family. For most young people, self-esteem rises and they see themselves as more mature, capable, and attractive than previously. Individuals with most favorable self-esteem profile tend to be well-adjusted, sociable, and conscientious, which also helps them to be authoritative. Parenting and encouragement from teachers predict high self-esteem in adolescents. Adolescents whose parents are critical and insulting have unstable and generally low self-esteem. Therefore, there is a very significant role of parents plays in the development of the adolescents. If the parents are too much restricted or too much give the freedom to their children, they become wayward in their future. Paths to identity. Researchers evaluating progress in identity development has constructed 4 identity statuses on the basis of 2 criteria from the Erikson's theory. First one is exploration, which we will explain in further, and commitment. Identity achievement. Commitment to values, beliefs and goals following a period of exploration. In this phase, like identity achievement phase, they understand what is their value, from where they belong, what they believe and what they want to be in their future. And also they established a goal. They follow certain rules, certain paths to achieve that particular goal and to be succeed in their life. Identity moratorium. Exploration without having reached commitment. They explore certain paths where they did not get any commitment, but still they try to achieve that goal. Identity foreclosure. Commitment in the absence of the exploration. There is a commitment, but they don't know how to explore the way to achieve that commitment. Identity diffusion. An apathetic state characterized by a lack of both exploration and commitment. In this identity diffusion phase, neither there is exploration nor their commitment. So these kind of persons, they suffer a lot in their life due to the confusion. Where they should go, where they should not go is a problem for them. Some young people remain in one identity status, while others experience many status transitions. Adolescence is a transition period. Therefore, we discuss a lot about the psychosocial issue in this phase. Most young people move from lower status on the higher ones. These occurs between mid-teens to mid-20s. The pattern often varies across identity domains such as sexual orientation, vocation, and religious values. There are a lot of change occurs in this adolescence phase, and the typical phase age is the mid-teen, like 12, 13, 14, 15, still the 19 and the mid of 20s. The pattern often across the many domains. The main reason is that they develop the sexual orientation, the vocation and the religious values. What religion they should follow, what should be the path to follow and what religion they believe. It is a construct they made in their mind. College promotes identity development with expanded opportunities to explore career options and lifestyles. After college, graduates often sample a broad range of life experiences before choosing a life course. Often in college, people offer some counseling courses that is related to career, what they want to be in their future, what they want to hold as their career for the entire life. That will be chosen by a life course, and also offering a counseling can solve their problem. Individuals who go to work immediately after high school settle on a self-definition earlier than the college-educated youth, but they are at risk of identity diffusion because they completely did not develop the entire phase. Then, without development, if they started going to a certain job or do want to help their support family, they suffer in identity diffusion. If they encounter the difficulty realizing their occupational goals because of lack of training or vocational choices, this lack of training always make them to suffer with sometime failure, and they could not achieve the goal which they set in past their life. Adolescents make progress on identity concerns before experiencing genuine intimacy in relationships. Identity formulation is a beginning of lifelong, dynamic process influenced by many factors, the individual or the context, and this identity formulation does not happen alone with the adolescents. The single person is not responsible. The entire peer group, sometimes the parents and others are also involvement in this procedure. Personality is a very significant aspect of adolescence phase. If the personality is properly groomed, developed in this phase, then the adolescents able to achieve the goal, the aim in the life. Adolescents who assume that absolute truth is always attainable tend to be foreclosed. Those who doubt that they will ever feel certain about anything are more often identity diffused. Those who appreciate that they can use rational criteria to choose among alternatives are like to be in a state of moratorium or identity achievement. Personality helps them to achieve their own identity. Family. Now, what is family? Whenever we utter this word, we concretize one house where our parents live or our parents' parents also live, and they are playing a significant role in the development of the adolescents. It plays a secure base from which they can confidently move out into the wider world. In our family, we see so many persons, so many near and dear, from which we are influenced. A person wants to be like his or her own mother because he or she admires her mother. A person wants to be like a father because they think his father is a perfect human being in this earth. So, the development starts from the family. Adolescents are in a state of moratorium or identity achievement, who feel attached to their parents but also feel free to voice their own opinion. We all are attached to our parents and we learn so many things from our family. Foreclosed teenagers usually have close bonds with parents but lack of opportunities for healthy separation. We all stay in the family. Whenever we need to go out of our family, there is a question of not healthy separation. We could not able to detach from our parents or from our family. That also affects our development. Diffused young people report the lowest level of parental support and of warm, open communication. Those who belong to a diffused label, they have a very thin relation with their family or parents, and they could not able to share the warm bonding between them. Therefore, there is not a healthy communication and there is no healthy development also occur in this phase. School and communities. We all know how school plays a role in our life, how school and the teacher and parents and the peer helps us to solve our problem. Also, sometimes they are the cause of so many problems. And the communities where we stay with happily, and also we learn lot of things from our communities. Adolescents get various of opportunities for exploration and support for the identity development from school and the communities. Supportive classroom environment and teachers help us want to explore a lot. Is not it? Our classroom teaching is really very helpful, and also it helps us to share what we all know, and also it clarify or it rectify our knowledge if we sometime wrong. Culture. Culture is a vital part of everyone's development in all over the world. So, our culture is like, for example, if some elderly person comes to our house, then we greet them and we ask them they want to have something or whether they are fine or not. Like this, we learn gradually, and also we try to follow our culture in every aspect of our life. Ethnic identity, a sense of ethnic group, membership and attitudes, and the feelings of associated with membership is central to the quest of identity. It makes us to feel happy that we have a strict type of culture which helps us to groom properly and also spread this culture everywhere wherever we go. The cliques and the crowds. In early adolescence, tightly knit peer groups tend to form, which are organized into cliques, group of 5 to 7 members who are friends, usually resemble one another in family background, attitudes and values. From where we get such kind of friends? Sometimes we get from school, sometimes we get it from communities, sometimes inside the family also we find our friends. So they have a same level from each other, and often several cliques with similar values form a larger, more loosely organized group called a crowd. Yes, they lead our life a lot. We learn so many things from them. Also, sometimes positive and negative influence of theirs falls on us. We try to sometimes show it, and sometimes we just do not. Interaction with diverse peers encourages adolescents to explore values and possible roles. Are we not always happy when we interact with our friends? Or are we not always happy when we try to solve the peer's problem and we succeed in this? Yes, we do used to feel happy. Also, this interaction with diverse friend groups, like the friends from your community, also the friends from other communities, where you share each other's knowledge, you share each other's culture, tradition, custom, which also helps to explore your knowledge and the values. Peer conformity. During adolescence, conformity to peer pressure is a great than the childhood. Why there is a greater conformity in adolescence than childhood? Yes, the answer is that the childhood we are so much dependent on our family, and also much time we reside inside our family. But when we pass a school and we join a college, we feel that we are our own savior. Therefore, we independently start our things and we try to stand on our legs. In this procedure, peers support a lot. Although early adolescents deal with peer on day-to-day personal choices, yet parents have more impact on the basic life values and educational plans. Always the plan for the education should be given to the child, also with the family. We should not allow the child whatever she or he wants to do. If the child's interest is in one way, we should allow, but still we should see the pros and cons of that career. And we child, being the adolescents, don't obey the family sometime, and they are so much influenced by the peer. If one career is chosen by one particular peer or friend, another peer also want to follow the same path without knowing the pros and cons, and in this way the family supports a lot. Children with authoritative parents resist peer pressure, whereas adolescents whose parents exert either too much or too little control tend to be highly peer oriented. Peer groups serve a number of important functions throughout adolescence, providing a temporary reference point for a developing sense of identity. Through identification with peers, adolescents begin to develop moral judgment. Moral judgment is what? What we judge, what we see, good and bad at that point of time. The values to define how they differ from their parents. Whatever is said by our parents, sometimes we adolescents don't want to obey as it is. Sometimes we try to experiment on it and we examine it. If also not happened in that manner, then we take the help of peer group and try to judge the situation as it is in that point of time. Peer groups serve a number of important functions throughout the adolescence, such as providing temporary reference point for a developing sense of identity. Through this identity peer, adolescents begin to develop this judgment values, and they define this in the same way to their parents. The relationship of adolescents with peer group changes over the period of adolescence. As the time changes, the peer group also changes. your mind changes, your age changes, and your situation also make a very different change. Young adolescents have at least one primary peer group with whom they identify who's a member, including the similar sex. This example is helpful for all these stages, but as they improve, as their phase increase, they come to middle adolescence, this thing little change that we are going to discuss now. During this time, involvement with peer group tends to be most intense, and conformity and concerns about acceptance are at the peak. During middle adolescence, for the example, 14 to 16 year, peer groups tend to be more gender mixed. As earlier I said, the early adolescence phase, they want to be friends of the same sex. But as the time changes, as they enter into 14 year, they try to do their friendship with other gender also. They try other genders, play, they try to adapt their values, they try to mingle with them to understand what is this world and how they are going to help each other. That time they don't see the person belongs to what sex and the person belongs to what religion. They totally focus on the friendship, and if instantly they like each other's friendship and they share that comfort zone, then they share this peer group. And also less conformity and more tolerance of individual differences in appearance, beliefs and feelings are typical. There are 5 psychosocial issues that teenagers cope with during adolescence. They are identity. The first issue is establishing one's own identity. This is a time when the opinions of people who influence their lives, such as parents, friends, and teachers, are integrated into their own opinion and beliefs. They begin to form their own values, beliefs, and goals. Teenagers begin to know where they fit into this world. Therefore, they idealize certain people in their life and they want to achieve that identity in their future. Autonomy. The second task is establishing autonomy. This means becoming an independent, self-governing individual within relationship. Once they gain autonomy, teenagers are able to carry out their own decisions. Intimacy. This is also a time when an individual establishes intimacy. Intimacy is first learned in same-sex friends. Intimacy refers to relationships with others that are caring, honest, trusting, and open sometimes. Young people practice their social skills first within same-sex friendships and with those they consider equals. It is through close friendships that teens learn the skill of beginning, maintaining, and ending the relationships. Learning to be comfortable with one's own sexuality. The fourth issue that teens deal with is the own sexuality. This is a time when young people are physically capable of reproducing and cognitively aware enough to think about their own sexuality. 2 factors: how teens are educated regarding the sex and how they are exposed to sexuality. Will this establish if they do or do not develop a healthy sexual identity? Achievement. The last issue and the most important issue in this adolescent's life is achievement. It must be dealt with during adolescence. Modern society is very competitive and values and promotes attitudes of competition and success. Due to their cognitive advances, teens begin to view the connection between their abilities and their plans for the future. They try to save and see the achievement what their family achieved. They also sometimes see their peer group what they are trying to achieve, and they also want to set that goal in their life. This is a time when they need to decide what they want and what they are, and try to figure out how they can attain their goals successfully.